Welcome back. So in today's video, I literally just want to have fun with you guys. Let's see if we can create an animation experiment. Whether you are a beginner or intermediate, my intention is to have everyone be able to follow it. So it's kind of a step-by-step process, right? So for this experiment, what I would like to do is let's download this Jerry mouse rig. And you can find this rig by finding the link for all the assets that I'm going to be using in this video are going to be listed in the description of this video, so you can download both of those. But this specific one was designed or created by Artem Dubina, and this is an adorable, high quality rig of Jerry, right? Jerry the mouse. And it's created for educational purposes. We're just having fun and simply looking to see if we can educate ourselves with the animation in mind. All right, and you can see Artem put up all these different previews of what the character can do. If you left or right arrow, you can see all these different amazing poses we can practice if we wanted to. There's even a video with the controllers. And as you can see, we just did a previous squirrel tutorial right in our last video, which was a lot more simple. This is a little more advanced by what I'm seeing as far as the controllers go, but it even has facial expressions if you guys want to take this further, and it even works with the Studio Library plugin in Maya, which I don't personally use, but you can see you can set specific expressions and you can actually save them like bookmarks and then just call them from the library, so you don't have to set that same expression every time, right? Studio Library. You know, I did look into this one time, and it actually didn't work on my Mac, so that's the reason I'm not using it, but I know it works well on the PC. But anyways, go ahead and download this. All right, so once you download the rig, head over to the second link, which is gonna be the rocket. And the rocket was created by this artist right here, Mateusz Schwab, and that is from Sketchfab, and this is also free. So to get this, you just simply, again, click on the link and then just say download the 3D model. And in my case, because we are using Maya, I'm just gonna say FBX. All right, very cool. Next, let's jump into Maya. And here I am in Maya, and I'm just gonna do this with you guys. I'm gonna say File, Open, and I'm gonna open my Jerry. Scene file, I'm gonna say Open. So if you get any kind of script warnings or anything, you can say remove just a few times, and if you say it a few times, you should get the character working just fine, right? All right, so once you open up the character, you should see something very similar to what I'm seeing here, right? And the you know, this is the first time I'm opening this character as well, so it does look like there's a lot of controllers, and it could look a little bit overwhelming at first. But if we are just thinking of this as kind of a basic motion, right? Think about it. If you want to grab the foot and move the foot, what would you do? You probably grab this guy here, right? And you would just simply move it around, and you can see what that looks like. So that's pretty cool. If you want to move the character's position, usually you would just grab the main controller or the root controller. In this case, this is called a main controller, right? You can see right here in the top right. If I press W, I can move this around, and this is true for pretty much every rig that you'll ever download. It's very similar. All right, really cool. What else can we play with? We have these little things in front. If I press E, most likely that's going to be rotating the foot, and that's correct. Very nice. You can see these two little controllers here. That's usually for the knee, right? So if you grab the foot controller and start moving it apart, sometimes maybe you want, maybe you want the knee to be inwards or outwards, whatever the pose is. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Let's take a look at this here. What do we have here? So this is the cog controller, or probably the kind of the waist, right? So we can get them sitting down. Usually the main controller for the waist or the cog controller is going to be larger. The smaller ones usually are the ones that apply kind of an extra effects. So in this case, it's going to be kind of a squishy effect. So you can see we can control all of this awesomeness, just like we did with the squirrel, right? Very cool. So this is definitely a cartoon controller, so it has all these different stretchy, squashy things built into it, right? If we want to try the neck, let's try the neck as well. I'm going to select, let's select this right here. What is this? This is called the head lower controller. If I press E and attempt to rotate it, that's kind of controlling the bottom head, the bottom portion of the head. Let's try this one here. This is going to be the neck controller. All right, very cool. So we can get them turning. Let's keep going. Let's see. So we have the ear controllers. Very cool. This one right here is going to be the main head controller. So if I press E, I can see that that's going to control the head as well. So we can use the neck controller or the main head controller to rotate the head. If we wanted to open up his mouth, I can see intuitively that this looks like the bottom jaw, right? So if I press, if we just try to rotate this, you can see what that looks like. So we can actually get him talking or screaming, right? Based on what you want. Let's try this guy here. If I press W, you can see I can get him smirking or smiling. Very cool. If I wanted to control his eyes, usually that's what this is here. So this right here is going to control where he's looking, right? And then this inside of here, if I hold on the shift key, you can see these are going to be kind of individual eyes. So maybe I just want one eye, right, looking this way, and I want the other eye looking that way. So I certainly could do that. Or if I want them to be together, I could do that. So this is incredibly built, very complex rig. You can clearly see that Artem put insane amount of time, and it's incredible that he's offering this for free. All right, very fun. So now we kind of took a basic look at the some of the controllers. Next, let's go ahead and import our rocket into here as well, so we can play around, right? So I'm going to say File, Import. I can see my rocket FBX right here. I'm just going to say Import. All right, and as it loads in ginormous, right? That's very, very large. Couple things. One, it's missing textures. So how do we fix textures? If you import something from the marketplace and the textures are not showing up even though your texture button is turned on, right? How do we fix this? You can right click on it, go to Material Attributes, and you can see under Material that this right here is probably not pointing to the right file. So I can just simply click on this, and then I can manually go to that same folder where the FBX is residing. Go to the texture folder, and I can see right there is the texture map for this asset. So I'm going to say Open, and voila, there it is. It just comes right in. A couple things, because this is a PNG. In Maya, it looks like it's doing something super strange. Look right here. It's like looking through the model. If that ever happens to you, just go back, click on this button right here, and then you can see by default when I plugged in the PNG, because the PNG is holding alpha values, Maya automatically plugged in or activated the transparency node, right, for this material. So how do we fix that? All we need to do is just right click and say break connection. So by breaking connection, I'm going to tell Maya to not look at this asset as a transparent asset. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like a skirt or a flag with a hole in it or anything like that, or a cape. I want this to be solid. So for that reason, I can break the transparency, and now you can see that that fixed that weirdness that we were seeing where the model was kind of looking through. Now, another thing I don't really like on this specific one is there's a lot of reflection here, right? And it's currently set to foam material. If you wanted to fix that, you can of course dial the specular color. You can do that. We can turn that off maybe. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is just changing the material itself. You can change it to like something like Lambert. And if you did that, that doesn't even have any specularity, right? But we'll just do this, that's fine. All right, so our little mouse is down there, tiny little guy. Let's go ahead and scale this down as well. So I'm just gonna simply scale it way smaller, press F on my keyboard, and let me keep scaling it a little more so we kind of get it to the size where it makes sense, right? This is gonna be Jerry's ride. Very cool. For now, I don't, let's think about this. So, a couple things, right? So, one of the things I want to do is I don't really want to be able to select this as I'm playing around with Jerry. I just want to use this as a reference. So, how do I make this to be visible, but not selectable? Well, if you ever want to do that, that's where you go to your channel box and you can use your layers. Just like in Photoshop, we can create layers. So to create a custom layer for the rocket, I can select the rocket and I can click on this little button right here, create a new layer. Okay. Now it's going to give me all these different options. One of them, I can have it visible or invisible, right? Just like in Photoshop. And then here you have something called template, reference, or nothing, right? So I'm gonna set this to template. And now what is template? Template means I can see through the object, right? So I can still see all my controllers for Jerry, but at the same time I can select it. Okay, so what is a reference? Reference just means you can see it's solid, right? It's not a see-through, but still again you can select it. All right. So just initially to get started, let's just set this to template. And that's going to give us what we want. All right, very cool. So now let's get started with playing around with Jerry. And my intention is just simply plop him on top of this rocket as kind of a basic exercise, right? Just something simple and fun and something that everyone can probably do pretty easily, even if you've never done this before. All right, so to do this, what I'm going to do is let's start from the beginning. Let's select all the controllers for Jerry. And let's do a couple things. Let's make sure that our frames per second is set to 24. You can do that right here in the bottom right. If it's set to 30, that's usually for games. Let's do 24. We'll do like a little short, couple seconds short. So we'll do that. And let's change the timeline to 24 as well. I'm not sure what your value is. It might probably be something larger. Set it to 24 as well. And that's going to give us 1 full second of 24 frames per second. All right, maybe we can just create kind of like a simple loop animation. Next, I'm going to select all the controllers for Jerry. I'm going to go to frame 0 and I'm going to press S on my keyboard to set the keyframes. Okay. Now you can see a red line appeared, meaning that every single controller has been keyed in. Okay, so to get started, let's just select this inner circle, which is called the offset controller. And offset meaning we can change the position of the character, right? And we'll maintain the main controller kind of on the ground so we can easily find it if we need to. But for that reason, let's just get him into the seat. And again, if you can't see the seat, very easily just switch it back to reference, and you could do it that way, right? And let's just get his tush somewhere where the seat is. So I think something like that is good. And maybe we can decide if we want to take advantage of the seat on the back, or I'm thinking if he's traveling at high speed, maybe he's kind of leaning forward. Or maybe he's having like a, you have to decide, what are you making? Is this rocket traveling 1,000 miles an hour and he's kind of holding on for his life and leaning forward, or is he kind of enjoying himself and leaning back? So we just have to decide, what do we want? I think we could do, I kind of like both ideas, but I might as well take advantage of this seat. So we'll just take it easy on Jerry and just give him a fun joyride. All right, so I think make sure that the scale and the position looks good, right? So I'm looking at his tush, it looks like he's about in the right position. And if you need to adjust the rocket once you get him up into position, of course you can just switch this back to normal mode and you can adjust the scale, right, as you wish. But I'm kind of liking mine, so I think I'm gonna go with this initially. There's actually another trick we can do in addition to doing this, right? There's another thing we can do. If you wanted to, you could leave this as a solid reference, but instead of just using it as full color or template where it's a wireframe, let's leave it on reference so we can't select it. But at the same time, let's change the alpha value of the texture so we can kind of see through it, so we can select our controllers. A really clever trick. So to do this, what we need to do is just simply make sure that you have your outliner available, right? And if even if this is set to a reference mode and you can't select it in the viewport, you could still always select it in the outliner. So if I select my rocket, right, and go into the material attributes, in here I have something called transparency. So in here I can actually dial this all the way down where I can't see it, or I can just give myself just a little bit alpha value, which is ironic because we disconnected that PNG. But now I'm thinking, let's use the transparency slider to help us see the body of the rocket, and at the same time being able to kind of see the controllers, right? I kind of would like to have both, right? I want to have my cake and eat it too. So let's do this. I kind of like that. And now what this is going to allow me is it's going to allow me to see the controllers and decide how do I want this to be, right? Do I want the foot to be up here like this? And you have to be careful before it snaps. We can do that. We can of course also press E and rotate the foot and position it, then press W and position it like up here somewhere, right? He's like chilling. Again, you have to be kind of careful with the snapping. So it could be something like that. That's one way of doing it. I was thinking of something else. I was thinking of taking the foot, pressing W, and just simply moving it out like this, and maybe even a little more, and then pressing E, and then putting it down like this. It's almost like a horse. All right, so we'll do something like this. Maybe pull it down a little bit and pull it out. You can see now we can see this solid rocket, so we can see if it's interfering, right? Maybe I can move it aside a little bit. And I think that's a little better. So there you go. So that's the first leg. Let's go ahead and do the second leg. Same thing. I'm just going to select this, press W, and move this into position. Press E, move it down, and then pressing W, I can figure out if I wanted to move it down a little bit, and of course also pressing E, I can move this foot a little as well. All right, I kind of like this. I think that totally works. We don't have to set any keys for this yet because we already set the keys for every single controller, and we're still in the initial pose on frame 0, which means all of these keys have already been set. But also make sure that you do have the little button here pressed in called auto keyframe toggle. Make sure this is on and it's red. That means it's activated. All right, so that's going to be useful if we start setting up more keyframes. All right, very cool. So this is looking really good. Let's continue having fun. I'm going to select this main controller, the cog controller, press W, and let's start figuring out his position of his tush precisely, right? So maybe we can see if we like this. I kind of want to make sure he doesn't go too far in, so I think that's pretty good. I like this. If I wanted to deal with this tail, right? Let's just simply select the first one, press E, and let's see if we could just lower this, right? I'm just gonna lower it like it's being pressed by this seat. And if we wanted to, we could also, of course, move it aside. Let's just move it aside. Maybe he's not sitting on it exactly. It's kind of to the side a little bit. And the cool thing about moving it to the side is that we can also animate this, right? So let's start bending it this way. And as he's flying on the rocket, maybe this little tail end can flap around a little bit. That would be kind of fun. So I think that works. All right, so we got the feet, the legs, the tail, we got the torso. Next, let's just start bending his back, right? So to do that, I'm gonna simply select, let me select this main controller again, and I'm gonna start rotating this in a little more. So I'm gonna have him kind of lean in. And I don't know if I wanna have him lean all the way back on the seat, which actually that looks really funny. That actually works too. Or if we wanted to, we can start kind of doing this and then pushing him forward a little more, right? So it's whatever you want. If you did something like this, I kind of like this actually. This is funny. Like this could be cool because this is moving really, really fast and he's being pressed in against the seat. So if we did this, right? Let's think about his arms. If that was the case, what would happen with his arms? Well, maybe he's having fun. He's not scared. He's having fun, so he's gonna pretend, you know, like kids do in the car, right? Like it's an airplane. So maybe for that reason, let's select this. And I'm actually gonna press Control-Alt-S. And when I did that, you can see it created a first, like a next save, which added these numbers. And every time I do Control-Alt-S, it's gonna give me sequential saves. So 2, 3, 4, and so on. So now if I select this and press E, I can maybe move this up. And you know what, let's do this together at the same time. So let's select both of these. And instead of world, let's switch this to object. And now if we start rotating them, you can see we can rotate them at the same time. So I'm thinking he can even maybe do something like this, like he's flying. You know, like a little kid waving his arms and trying to fly. I think that would be really cute and simple, right? So I think that's what I'm kind of going for, something simple and cute. So let's do this. And that's going to be his kind of animation. All right, very cool. For the head, I think for the head it would be cool if he actually was attempting to kind of lean forward, you know? I think that's a little more interesting, a little more engaging instead of kind of leaning it back. Leaning back is very funny too, but I think this is going to be a little more, like he's a little more in control. Now, if we do put the head forward, I think it would be fun if we took the eyes and definitely brought them up or forward, right? So he's kind of looking forward when he's flying. I think that's pretty cool. Let's decide if he's happy or if he's terrified. I'm gonna press E and let's go ahead and open his mouth, right? And I think I'm gonna give him a smile. I think he's happy. So let's gonna select this guy, press W, pull this up. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Very cool. Let's see if we want to do anything with the eyebrows. Maybe we want to take these eyebrows and move them a little bit higher, right? So he's really excited. And let's decide if we want to do anything with these. I think we're gonna, let's put these up as well. So a little, the mesh is gonna follow kind of the eyebrows. And of course you have many different options here. I don't want to make it too complicated, but you have all these different things to play with, right? Another thing we can animate as he's flying through are the ears, right? So I can select both of these at the same time. And because we can switch this to object mode and press E, we can control these kind of symmetrical at the same time. And I think if he's flying really fast, his ears definitely would be kind of back, right? Instead of up. And another thing we can animate are these little hairs on top as well. All right, very cool. So again, if he's flying at high speed, most likely these would be kind of pointing back. I'm actually going to reverse his hairs, both of them. I think that would make more sense. I can move it aside a little more, but this way you see they're kind of pointing backwards, right, instead of frontwards. I think that would make more sense. All right, very cool. So I like the initial pose, and of course you have to like what you're doing, but I think something like this is pretty awesome. All right. Now let's go ahead and start creating a simple animation out of this, right? So how do we do that? Well, I'm gonna select all the keys, and again, we already set the keys on 0. So I'm going to say copy, and I'm gonna go to 24, and I'm gonna say paste. And the reason I'm doing this is because regardless of what we do in the middle, I wanna make sure that the first and the last frames are exactly the same. And this way it's gonna give me a seamless loop, 1 second loop, right? So if I press play, regardless of what happens in the middle, he's gonna always end up on the same pose, right? And that's gonna give us the seamless animation. Very nice. So now let's go ahead and start creating some commotion. And so I'm gonna go to frame 12 and let's do this. So in addition to whatever we're gonna do next, also please keep in mind that we're gonna add additional motion to both of these. So it looks like it, you know, the rocket is not completely still. It's gonna be kind of moving up and down. But before we do that, right, before we add any animation to the rocket, let's create some movement to his body as he's flying on the rocket. So I hope that makes sense. So we're gonna only focus on him initially. So again, we have the 0 and 24 set. So now let's just start creating some kind of a motion that's gonna happen during the flight, right? So one of the things we can do is just kind of work our way, you know, bottom up or top down, right? Whatever you want. Let's start with the feet. I'm going to select both of these feet, and maybe one of the things I could do is I'm going to actually switch this to world. I want to have it nice and symmetrical. One of the things I can do is I can just simply push them back a little bit. Okay, if I let it go, you can see because this button is on, it automatically created my keyframe. And now if I press play, I kind of have this movement going back and forth. And we can decide if we like that or if we wanted to speed this up. All right, I think that's cute and simple, but it's definitely too slow, right? How do I speed this up? Well, to speed this up, in my case, initially I wanted to create a 24 frame animation, but now I'm looking at it. If I play it, I think it's going to be actually a little bit too slow. So let's speed this up by, let's double the speed. So to double the speed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift key, click on 12, and then just drag it over to number 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the keyframes, go to 24, hold down the Shift key and select this as well, and drag this all the way down to 12, okay? So essentially I just changed my animation from 24 frames. I want it to be double the speed, so I'm going to make it to 12 instead. So for that reason, let me change my timeline to 12 and let me press play. And I think that's a little bit better. Now it looks like he's actually fighting the wind at a better speed. All right, very cool. Let's continue making further adjustments. Another thing we wanted to do is maybe make the tail move, right? So the same thing. We already have 0 and 12, so go to, let's go to 6. I'm gonna press, I'm gonna grab my rotation and let me just move this up. And another thing I can do is maybe let's grab this and controller, press W, and let's just move this so it's kind of stretching as well, right? So now if we press play, let's see what we got. Very cool. You can decide if you like that. If you don't, you can of course add more, right? So maybe this end piece here flaps a little more on 3, so I can press S, or I can just press E and just change the rotation. Maybe rotate this up a little more. Let's go to like 9 and rotate this down. And again, I didn't have to press S because this toggle is on. And now if I press play, you can see that the tail is moving kind of crazy, right? Now again, this doesn't look right yet because the rocket is not kind of moving around, right? So this might look a little bit crazy, but try to use your imagination and think of this as wind hitting this guy at some serious speeds, right? All right, very cool. Let's just keep going. Next, another thing we can do is, like we said, let's adjust his arms. So for that, I'm gonna go to 6. I'm gonna switch to, make sure I'm in object mode, press E. And let's just simply bring them down a little bit. All right. If I press play, I can see what he's doing. All right. Very cool. I'm gonna go to 6, and let's also, just for fun, change the rotation of his wrists. So maybe we want to do something like that. Or maybe we want it actually a bit lower, right? Do the same thing here, just gonna bring it down a little more. And when he's up here, I actually want the wrist to be more like this. So I'm gonna take this one as well and bring it up. And let me adjust this one too. Okay. Now, if I want to copy this over to the 12, I need to hold on the Shift key, select both of the ones that I just adjusted, copy keyframes, go to 12, and let me paste them in as well. Okay. Now on 6, he's kind of pointing down, and then on 0 and 12, they're kind of up. And I think that's going to give a cute little addition to our loop animation. Very cool. Let's do a little commotion on his belly, right? So I'm gonna go to 6. Let's select something even like in the middle here, press W, and let's decide what we want to do here. Maybe the belly is gonna go forward a little more. And again, let's just see how that looks. All right, I'm liking that. I think that's really cute. It's very easy to make things over complex very quickly, but as long as you kind of maintain an idea of what you're trying to do, you don't really need to animate every single controller to create life in the animation. And sometimes it's better to create something simple that looks nice and then carefully go back in and make it more complex. But initially, simplicity is king, I think, to kind of maintain, to stay out of kind of a chaotic mode, right? Let's adjust the head. I'm going to select the main head controller. You can see that here, head controller, same thing. Let's go to 6 and let's press E. And let's maybe pull the head back a little more. Okay. Again, press play. Very cute. We can decide if we like that. I think I do. I think that's really, really cool. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the ears. I'm going to select this main ear controller, hold Shift, select this one. Again, I'm making sure I'm in object mode. Go to frame 6, press S. And let's just figure out if we want to maybe move it lower even more, right? So we have something like that. And I'm okay with them being intersecting. If you don't like that, you can, of course, adjust this a little more and make sure they're not, right? Maintain kind of our quality. I'm not really sure what's going on here. It looks like it's a little bit intersecting, so maybe we want to do something like that. We're gonna fix the hairs in a minute, right? Or I guess these are kind of an ear hair, so that's a little bit different. All right, very cool. Let's check this out and press play and see what it's looking like. Very cool. I would like the ears to be moving a little bit faster. I'm gonna go to 3. And let's just add some more commotion. So maybe do something like this. And then on 9, do the same thing. And on 6, maybe I can actually move them up. All right, I think that's pretty close. And let's jump into the animation view. And let's take a look at the tangents for these ears, right? So maybe if you don't like how something is behaving, let's play around with this. Let's try the spline first and see if that's better. All right, I think that's pretty good. I think this feels like it's the wind is hitting his ears really, really fast. Of course, you can play around and see if you like that. Another thing we can do is let's adjust the eyes, right? The eyes, if I choose the eyes, I can see that on 6, I would like to maintain the position of where he's looking. So maybe on 6, let's just bring the eyes back down, and that will maintain kind of his point of view, right? So he's looking forward, and then as his head goes up, his eyes kind of maintain the same position. All right, let's press play. All right, very cool. Next, let's go ahead and add a little more movement to the hairs, right? I'm gonna select this one. And again, I'm trying to keep it super simple. So I'm just trying to select kind of the main controllers for each one. I'm gonna press E. And let's just maybe move this up so it's a little more dramatic. Let's go ahead and select this other one here and do the same thing. Maybe let's move this up, and let's take a look and see how that's looking. All right, I'm definitely not liking this one. Maybe I'll put it all the way down. And it's just a matter of tweaking it, right? All right, I kind of like that. I think that's cute. Very cool. So I think at this point, of course, you can play around and make it even more custom, but let's say I like this. Let's say we're done. You can, of course, spend more time. Also, make sure you spend a few minutes cleaning up if necessary. If you select, we don't really have a lot of animation going on, but just for fun, for practice, if you wanted to, you can select each one of your controllers, and you can see if you like if there's any cleanup that needs to be in the graph editor. Make sure everything is kind of nice and smooth as you're playing around, and you don't have any kind of jaggedy or anything super ugly, right? Let's say this is great. What would be the next step? How do we animate this rocket and Jerry at the same time? So you know what? I'm gonna jump out of the animation mode. Let me go back into here so we have the viewport a little bit larger. But to get that going, all you need to do, and again, remember, Control-Alt-S will save your file incrementally. I'm on O2, just in case. Next, I'm gonna go to Create, and I'm gonna create a locator. Now, when I add the locator, you can see that this huge green kind of a gizmo was added to the scene. Now what I can do is I can select the Jerry, right? And I can drag Jerry into my locator. Now I can also select the rocket. Remember, I could select it in the outliner even though this is set to reference. And I can drag middle on my mouse. I'm gonna middle mouse drag into the locator as well. Now they're both inside the locator. Now if I click out and play the animation, it looks like nothing happened. But what we just did is we grouped the rocket and Jerry into a locator which we can now animate. So now if I select this locator and press W, I can actually move both of them at the same time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my locator in the outliner. I'm going to press S on 0. I'm going to go to 12 and press S, go to 6, and I didn't have to press S because this is on, but I do want to move this. So I'm going to move this up just like that, just a little bit, right? And now check this out. If you press play, it looks like the rocket is actually moving around, and we can actually shake this a little more, right? So maybe instead of just doing that, we can also, let's go ahead and select our locator and move it a little bit to the left. Let's go to 9, maybe move it a little bit to the right. And on 6, we can even, let's just mess this up a little bit. Maybe move it down a little more. And let's press play. All right, now we kind of have this crazy, it's up to you, right, how you tweak it. But you can see now it looks like he's flying to the air, especially if I turn off the point of reference. Visualize clouds going by really, really fast. And maybe there's a smoke coming out from the back, right? So if I didn't want to see all of these controllers, I can go to Show, Viewport. Let's turn off NURBS curves. And let's also go to Show, and let's turn off the locators. All right, now you can have a really good idea of how it's looking. At this point, I definitely think we should add a little smoke as well. Let's add a little pre-made smoke here in Maya, right? To our rocket. And now we're also done with the rocket being transparent. So let's change that back as well. So I'm gonna open up my locator, click on my rocket, right click, go to Material Attributes, And remember, in the material we changed the transparency, so let's go ahead and set this back to solid. Right, now if I press play, we can preview this. This is looking really cute, hilarious, and would make a great little rendering, right? You can set up fun lights here as well, right? If you want to do some lights. Now, I'm not going to set up an entire Arnold scene, but I have a video, many videos on how to do that. But just for fun, for the preview in the viewport, you could always just go create a light, like a directional light, for example. Think of this as like your main light. Let's go ahead and do something like this. And now if we turn our lights on, we can see that this light is actually controlling how the character is looking, right? So maybe I want to do something like this. I can press Ctrl D to make another one, and I can do one coming from this direction, and this could be kind of my, maybe kind of like my rim light. I can change the intensity, and now I have a really cool lighting, just even for the viewport. I'm not even doing a rendering animation, but just for kind of a fun preview, right? So lighting is going to be a big part of this. All right, very cool. So now how do we add a little smoke coming out from our rocket? And to add the smoke, let's just head over to Content Browser. And in here, if we go into FX and Fire, we have something called Flame. Let's simply take this flame and just simply drag it right into our scene and just drop it down. All right, once we drop it down and press play, we can see what that looks like. And that doesn't look very good. It looks like it's starting and stopping very fast, and we only have a 12 keyframe animation. How do we make this consistent? So to fix this, what we need to do is we need to select the flame in our outliner. You can see that here. And if you go to shapes, you can see that it's set in the channel box. It says start frame 0. Well, let's start the flame sooner, right? So instead of starting it at frame 0, let's go ahead and set it to -10. So that's going to be starting to outside of 0. So we're not even going to see the smoke ramp up. By the time it gets to 0, it's going to be at full speed. So now if I press play, you can see that it's kind of moving at full speed, and that's exactly what I want, right? So now what I need to do is I need to change the size of this and put it on the back of my rocket, right? So how do I do that? Let's select it. Let's press R. Let's just simply scale this down, something like this. I'm going to press E. Holding down the J key, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. You can see that on the bottom left, it says 90. I'm going to grab my move and go ahead and just position this to where I think the beginning of the smoke is. So something like that. Let's just get it into position, and you can see there's like a little dot, right? A little sphere right there, right? So we just need to make sure that it's kind of in the middle, and it kind of makes sense, right? Very cool. Once we are done, let's go ahead and middle mouse drag this inside our locator as well. This way, it's going to adapt all the animation that we added to our locator. And now if I wanted to, let's go to show, and let's say none. And then let's go back to show. Under viewport, let's just simply only choose polygons. And of course, we want the fluids as well. All right, let's press play. There we go. At this point, we just simply have to adjust our flame. If we wanted to, we can, of course, let's go ahead and scale it. It feels like it's a little bit too large. So I'm going to scale this, press W, get it into position. I can also adjust all of these different values as well. And keep in mind, you have a bunch of settings on the main flame box, and then you also have another set of settings if you click on the inside and the actual emitter, right? The emitter has even more physics options that you can dial in and play with, right? So you can change the frequency, the speed, the all of that, right? Power. If we wanted to do a real-time preview without any delays, let's do a couple things. Let's turn off our wireframe, and let's go ahead and also turn on our shadows. Very cool. And we can do a quick play blast. So to do a play blast, there's a couple ways you can do it. One of them, you can just right click on your timeline, play blast options. And in here you have a few different options. The encoding, I'm going to leave mine on 264. We can do scale full scale, or I'm going to do 50%. And let's just do a play blast. Alright, and now that's going to give me a real-time preview of 24 frames per second playback without me worrying about any kind of delay. So from based on the play blast, you can go back and adjust anything that you want, right? So the timing, the position, and it's nice because you don't need to render out the entire image and wait an hour or two for your render to see the real-time preview. So this is pretty great and pretty powerful. Obviously the smoke needs a lot of adjustment, but I just kind of wanted to give you kind of a basic understanding of how to do this. All right, so I hope you had fun in this little exercise. I know I did, and it's always fun to play around with animation. If you take this further, maybe you want to tweak this even more. Maybe you actually decided to render out the entire animation. I would love to see what you've done. If you want to post it on the bottom of this video in the comments, a link to your video, that would be amazing to see what you have done. But again, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something new, and hopefully I inspired you to give this a shot and play around with animation. All right, I'll see you in our next video.